Hi, my name is Clara Kalindida Luz, and I'm here to accompany you on your healing journey. The first video that I wanted to make is really about what happens when you open up your trauma wound, because I think it's so important to understand this so that you can make a little sense of what is happening if that has happened to you. Because when this happened to me, I had absolutely no idea what was happening. It was completely, it was completely traumatic in itself. I would say that for me, because of my childhood trauma and then also adult trauma, I was completely disconnected from myself. In the sense that I felt like I was just a mind. I didn't feel like I had a body, to be honest. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I just was not connected to my body at all. I didn't feel hunger or thirst. I had feelings, but I think they were kind of limited. It's a little bit hard to kind of understand it fully. However, there were a lot of things that were completely suppressed, I guess is what I would say. So I suppressed my negative feelings, my fear, my anger, everything. So I was kind of a very steady, bland human, kind of like a robot. Just the funniest side, the word robot comes from my language. We coined the word. I think that's so appropriate. It comes from robota, which means to work. And there was this novel where there were robots and sorry, forgot the name of the author. But anyways, I was a robot. Or you could say I was frozen. Whatever terminology or analogy you want to use, that was my reality. And then what happened was, when I opened up this trauma wound, when I wrote a piece about my childhood trauma, it was like a dam burst open, and suddenly I had extreme anxiety. I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I really couldn't function. I held it together enough to function, but I was in such turmoil, deep turmoil. I remember I would walk around this park outside my apartment building. I would walk around and around and around and around, and my mind was racing, and I was trying to understand what was happening, and I had no idea, and I was trying to calm myself, and I was trying to get a grip, and I couldn't. And although I had a counselor at the time, she really did not understand trauma. She really didn't know how to support me. I had a few close friends that also I don't think knew what was happening or how to support me either. None of us knew. We were very confused. And within half a year, I moved back to China with my then husband and 2 kids, which just escalated everything, because then I had absolutely no support. And also, as I opened up this trauma wound and started taking just the tiniest little steps of connecting to myself. For example, sometimes, so not all the feelings were negative. There were also great positive feelings. It was just an insane roller coaster, mainly down though. But I would feel great joy, and I would start dancing in my living room, and my ex would just ridicule me and put me down and, you know, put me back into my little cage. That's where you belong. And I was compliant. I was not strong at all at that time. But I think he sensed that things were shifting, and he became more abusive to us, to myself and our kids. And this all was happening in a foreign country where I was alone, basically. And for 2 years I endured this hell, really. Like I was kind of just trying to survive and escaping my reality. Like, I played Candy Crush all the time. That was my escape. Different people have different methods, you know? That was mine. Yeah, it was very sad time. And you know, I think the thing that kept me going really were my kids. I felt like, if you watch my first video, I had lost my father to depression and suicide, and I really felt like I couldn't do that to my children. I mean, who would raise them? My ex. That was not an acceptable option. And so they were the reason that I kept going, and then eventually they were the reason that I was able to leave my marriage. Really, they gave me the courage. Like, I didn't value myself enough to leave the marriage for myself. I felt like I could just go on and suffer, and that was my plight in life. But I couldn't accept that my children would have that life. So really, there are two things that are extremely important when you begin healing trauma. And if it's anything like what happened to me, it might just like happen suddenly, and it's not like you planned it. You probably don't know that you had trauma. That's, I think, a common experience. I certainly didn't think that I had trauma too, which makes no sense, because literally the facts were there was trauma, but somehow I thought that I was fine. So the first thing is, go extremely slow. You have to go extremely slow. If you open up the wound too much, which happened to me, it's just going to be extremely difficult. You will be basically re-traumatized, and it will be very difficult. And the second one is, please have someone who is supporting you, a mental health professional, a healer, something. Because someone who is skilled in trauma, who understands trauma, because they're the only ones who can guide you. You know, just because someone is a registered counselor or psychologist or psychiatrist doesn't mean they actually understand how to help people with trauma, unfortunately. So make sure that the person you're working with understands how to help you through trauma. So for me, I had neither of those. But so whatever your circumstance is, maybe you are in a situation like you are in a foreign country, or you can't afford a counselor, or whatever it is, just know that even if you do not have that, you will get through this. You will, you know, I got through it on my own, basically, even though it was extremely difficult. But you know, if you're watching this video, at least you're reaching out for resources. You're looking for resources, which is great. There are actually amazing, I think, YouTube videos. That's another form of support. I had no idea that I could have accessed that. But yeah, so if you are able to work with a trauma-informed counselor or other kind of healer, they will know that you have to go very slow. My counselor, the one that I found a few years after, like 3 years actually after, like for 3 years I was on my own, and 3 years later I found this counselor. And yeah, even now he says, well, you know, that's all we can do for today. You need to work through that before you can go to the next step. You know, he understands that you have to go slow. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to share. And you know, please know that you are not alone. Know that what's happening to you, you will get through it. It's extremely painful, it's extremely challenging, but in the end, one day you will see it as a gift. And it took me an extremely long time, but now I can start to say that, now that, you know, 7 years after the beginning and 4 years of working every week with a counselor, now I'm starting to see that. So even if you only believe me this much, that little bit of hope, it means a lot still, you know. So I'm sending you so much love. Please do contact me through my Instagram, or write comments below. I will answer your comments or questions. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being amazing and healing yourself, which as you heal yourself, you are healing the world as well.